Fort Redding Range, Wyoming. The early spring wind kicked up red dust along the chain-link fence, tossing fine grit into the eyes of young recruits lined up at the security checkpoint. A tall, lean woman walked slowly toward the gate. Her light brown hair hung loose around her shoulders. Her boots, military issue once black, were so worn they'd gone gray, and her pack looked like it had been dragged through half the desert. No one knew who she was. ID? The guard asked, barely looking up from his clipboard. She held out an old contractor card. Name, C. Duval. Unit, blank. No barcode, no assigned base. What kind of contractor looks like a drifter? One young soldier muttered, loud enough for the others to chuckle. She didn't respond. Just set her pack down and opened it when asked. Inside, a worn leather notebook, a small bottle of pills, and a tightly rolled black cloth. She didn't try to hide anything. Didn't rush. Didn't explain. When they asked her to remove her ring for the scanner, she slid off a matte black band. Underneath, etched on the underside, was a symbol, a snake coiled around a silver bullet, faded with time, but still clear enough to make a corporal nearby freeze mid-step. What? What is that? Probably some action movie prop. Another soldier laughed. Granny here's been watching too much Netflix. She stood still. Her eyes drifted toward the barracks where the American flag fluttered gently in the wind. No one saw her hand clench, just slightly. Your name's not on the week's contractor list, the duty officer said. You don't have clearance. You'll need to leave the premises. I'm here to speak with anyone who was part of Operation Marlow Ridge, she said, voice raspy. It'll only take a minute. The sentence landed like a rock in still water. One of the younger soldiers laughed. Marlow Ridge? You pull that from a comic book? Anybody here ever heard of Marlow Ridge? The whole post burst into laughter. One soldier mock-announced into his radio, Alert! Female subject wearing silver vest, bearing mythical serpent ring, claims to be from a place that never existed. But one man wasn't laughing. Sergeant Kyle Mercer, 18 years in uniform. His eyes had locked on the black ring. One beat, two. Then suddenly he barked, Step back! Now. Silence. Mercer stepped forward, never taking his eyes off her. He spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Anyone here ever heard of Stryker Cell? No one answered. He looked at her. Where are you from? She replied quietly but firmly. Overlook Ridge. Grid Point Echo. Mercer inhaled sharply. That was the last known location in a redacted mission file of a unit erased from the system in 2012. Sergeant Mercer led her inside without another word. The gate guards stood frozen, unsure whether to salute her or stop her. They didn't do either. Inside the admin hall, the woman sat quietly at an unused metal desk. Her hands rested on her pack, still dusty from travel. Mercer locked the door behind them. You said you're from Overlook Ridge, he said slowly. You understand that's not a place most people would know. I know, she said. That's why I'm here. He motioned to the notebook. Can I see it? She handed it over without hesitation. Mercer opened it, expecting something vague, maybe old journal entries or names without context. But what he saw was clinical, surgical. Each page held a record, name, blood type, last known position, and a date. 6 names total, all dated within a single 72-hour window. Each name had a final line beneath it. Confirmed at Grid Point Echo. Witness. C.D. Mercer looked up. They were mine, she said. Stryker 9. We weren't supposed to be remembered, but I made a promise. Her voice didn't tremble. She didn't cry. It was like she'd repeated those words too many times in silence. Mercer flipped to the final page. A hand-drawn map. Coordinates. Overlook Ridge. A note. Last contact. Last stand. Last keeper. He closed the notebook gently, sat back. I've seen this symbol, he said, nodding toward her ring. Back when I was stationed near Redmark Pass, there was a black ops group that operated outside the chain of command. No names, no files, just whispers. She nodded. Stryker Cell was decommissioned on paper in 2012, but not all of us were accounted for. Some were left behind. One returned. You? He asked. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Mercer rubbed his face. Years of silence suddenly made sense. "You're not here for recognition," he said. She shook her head. "Just need someone to hear the names. That's all." He reached for the intercom. "There's one more officer you need to see. He's the only one left who might understand." Major Grant Halstead hadn't planned to be at Fort Reading that day. He was supposed to be en route to a regional conference, but something, instinct maybe, had told him to stay back. When Sergeant Mercer's call came through, the message was simple. "You'll want to see this. She has a striker mark." That was enough. Halstead walked into the admin room with the posture of a man who'd spent his whole life in the system, but carried a few ghosts outside of it. The woman stood when he entered. She didn't salute. He didn't expect her to. Mercer handed him the notebook. "She says she was with Striker 9, said they were left behind at Overlook Ridge." Halstead froze at the name. No one outside a very small circle should have known it. Overlook Ridge wasn't on any official mission record. That op had been buried so deep, not even the unit's name made it onto post-action briefings. He looked at the woman. Her eyes weren't pleading, just steady, like she'd been waiting years for someone to match the weight of what she carried. "You're not on any list," Halstead said. "I was," she replied. "Then I wasn't." He slowly reached into his coat and pulled out a folded operations log. Classified Level 9, restricted access. He laid it on the desk, flipped to a redacted page, a hand-drawn version of the same terrain map she'd carried. He compared coordinates. They matched. Striker 9 was reported compromised. Entire unit assumed KIA. "I know," she said. "That's what made the lie easy to live with." There was a long silence. Then Halstead asked the question that had haunted a few senior officers for years. "Why didn't you come back in?" She didn't look away. "I did," she said, "but I didn't bring back what they wanted. Data, objectives, confirmation. I only brought names." And silence. He looked at her ring again. "Who gave you that?" She didn't answer. She just turned the ring slightly, revealing an engraving on the underside. "Striker 9. Hold the line." That was it. No file, no badge, no official commendation. Just a single truth, hidden beneath years of dust and denial. And Halstead realized this wasn't a woman seeking clearance. This was a final witness, asking someone to remember. Major Halstead didn't call security. He called records, but even they couldn't pull a file. No military number, no deployment orders, not even a discharge. "Whoever she was, she doesn't exist in our system," the clerk said uneasily. Halstead closed the line without a word. He already knew the answer. He sat across from her. "You were the one who held the rear at Overlook Ridge, weren't you?" She didn't nod. She didn't speak. She just unwrapped a small cloth bundle from her bag. Inside 6 unit badges, each pinned neatly beside a name, a blood type, and a grid coordinate. A page beneath it read in block letters, "Do not forget." He recognized the names. Half of them had been in his old unit, soldiers they'd written off as lost in the chaos. One of them, Corporal Dunn, had been his own trainee. "You carried them?" Halstead asked, voice low. "I held until the evac team could get out," she said. "Then I carried what was left." There was no anger in her voice, just a kind of worn steadiness, like someone who'd bled past rage and into quiet duty. "Why now?" he asked. She took out a photo. It showed 6 figures, faces young, grinning, taken on the ridge before it fell. She set it down next to the badges. "I was the only one who walked out, but that doesn't mean they were meant to disappear." Halstead stood. He walked to the admin desk, grabbed a blank form, and began to write. He didn't know which codes to use. He didn't care. Striker Cell, unofficial record survivor. One returned, 6 names. He signed it, dated it, and handed it to her. She looked down at the page. It wasn't recognition, but it was something. "The system will fight this," he said. She finally met his eyes. "Then I'll fight quieter," she replied. The day Claire Duval left Fort Reading Range, no orders were filed. No farewell ceremony was held. She walked out the same way she came in, quiet, steady, unnoticed. But something had shifted. A week later, on the far end of the range, Near the rusted comms tower nobody used anymore, someone mounted a plaque to the wall. No brass, no headline, just a simple inscription carved into wood. For Striker 9, the one who didn't break the line. It didn't say her name, but everyone who had been at the gate that day remembered. Not because she demanded it, because she didn't. Not because she wore medals, because she didn't, but because of the silence she carried. The kind you don't learn, the kind only a handful come back with. Over the weeks that followed, quiet things began to happen. One by one, names were quietly added to the memorial wall in the admin wing. 6 names no one had heard in a decade. No ceremony, no color guard, just white paper, black type, laminated by hand. A young recruit who'd mocked her now stood guard outside that same wall every Friday at sundown. The training staff revised the handbook. A new note appeared in the section on intake protocol. If you see a mark you don't recognize, don't ignore it. Some marks aren't for show. Some marks are for those who stayed behind. And near the supply depot, a small stone was set into the ground. Dark gray, easily overlooked. No one claimed to have placed it there. But etched into the surface were 9 black tally marks wrapped around a silver bullet. People began leaving tokens. A blood-type tag, a folded ration card, a weathered patch, initials burned into the edge. No one ever explained. No one needed to. Because those who had served knew. Some units didn't come back, and some who did never raised their voice again. But they carried the names. One day a colonel from Fort Weston visited the range, stood for 15 minutes before the plaque, and left without saying a word. The next month, 3 more showed up. Some of them had orders. Some just needed to look. But all of them stood a little straighter after. Back in town, an old mechanic who never said much began showing up at the memorial once a month. He'd clean the stone, nod once, and leave a small black ring with the letters S9 etched on the inside. No one ever saw him arrive. And in the admin office, the photo they once printed to log the unknown woman at the gate, it stayed on the wall. Not under disciplinary events, under a new label, verified, Striker 9, survivor. They never updated her real name. She didn't ask them to, but her story was now part of the base. Not in the records. In the silence, people began to respect again.